Good evening, friends. Thank you for joining me, as always, around this time and giving me your suggestions. They mean so much to me. Today, we cover various news bits that will be of interest to you. In the first news bit, NCB arrests gangster with drugs worth rupees 10 lakhs from Mumbai's Lokhandwala. Ibrahim Mujawar was arrested with 100 grams of mephedrone worth rupees 10 lakhs. Following up after his interrogation, the NCB raided three places in Dongri and have also arrested Ibrahim's supplier, who was in possession of hashish. The NCB arrested a gangster and drug peddler from the upscale Lokhandwala area of Mumbai on Saturday. The accused has been identified as Ibrahim Mujawar, who calls himself Ibrahim Kashkar. During the interrogation, Ibrahim admitted that he was highly influenced by the underworld don Dawood Ibrahim and wanted to become an even bigger gangster. Ibrahim Mujawar was arrested with 100 grams mephedrone, worth rupees 10 lakhs. The vehicle in which Mujawar used to peddle drugs has also been seized by police. Following up after his interrogation, the NCB raided three places in Dongri and have also arrested Ibrahim's supplier, who was in possession of hashish. In the preliminary investigations, Ibrahim disclosed that the seized MD was sourced from Asif Rajkotwala of Dongri, South Mumbai. The NCB team apprehended Asif Rajkotwala from Dongri with a small quantity of charas, confirmed a senior NCB officer. Ibrahim and Asif were working together since the past 1 year. Ibrahim also faces cases of Section 353 of IPC for attacking police personnel and Section 307 of the IPC for attempted murder. While he was out on bail, with regards to these cases, he has again been arrested. Ibrahim is being interrogated by NCB to know details of other people working for him in western Mumbai. Meanwhile, Asif is facing questions regarding the name of his suppliers and who manufactured the MD that was being peddled by Ibrahim and other members of the module. NCB Zonal Director Zamir Wankhede said Ibrahim is a notorious gangster and drug peddler, and his arrest would help crack down on a bigger module that he was part of. We are constantly conducting raids on various such peddlers across Mumbai city and also other parts of the state, and we are initiating strict action on the drug supply chain of these peddlers. Hats off to Samir Wankhede for the kind of work that he and his team are doing selflessly, and also to clean up the drug menace. Another interesting bit of news is that Sushant Singh Rajput's cousin, Neeraj Singh Bablu, has been sworn in as a minister in Bihar government. Meanwhile, Bollywood actor Kangana Ranaut has decided to withdraw the suit she filed against the BMC regarding an alleged demolition case of her residence in 2018. This was informed to the Bombay High Court by her lawyer, Birendra Saraf. Her lawyer also said that she is willing to do so in the next 4 days and would apply for regularization. It was also informed that she will seek to apply for regularization in the next week. The High Court has also directed the BMC to decide on the application in accordance with the law. Besides, the High Court has also granted protection of 2 weeks to Kangana from any possible coercive action in case an adverse decision is taken by the BMC. She can then approach the court again for relief. Justice Prithviraj Chauhan permitted Ranaut to withdraw the appeal and said no coercive action shall be taken by the civic body until the application for regularization is heard and decided, and for 2 weeks thereafter. The appellant, which is Ranaut, is permitted to apply for regularization before the MCGM within a period of 4 weeks, Justice Chauhan said. The corporation shall decide the same expeditiously and in accordance with the law, the court said. In case of any adverse order against the appellant, no coercive action shall be taken thereafter by the BMC to enable the appellant to file appeal, the court said. The city's civic body in March 2018 had issued a notice to Ranaut for alleged illegal merger of 3 flats owned by her in Orchid Breeze building in suburban Khar. The Dindoshi Civil Court dismissed her suit against the notice in December last year, following which she moved the High Court. The civil court, while dismissing the suit, had noted there was grave violation of the sanctioned plan while amalgamating the three flats. Renaud's petition said since she bought the flats in 2013, she had not made any structural changes. She had carried out only certain cosmetic changes, said the appeal. Last year, the civic body had initiated demolition of alleged unauthorized construction of Renaud's bungalow in Pali Hill area here. Taxi later held the municipal corporation's action as illegal and malicious. Moving on to Rajiv Kapoor, the younger brother of Rishi Kapoor and Ranbir Kapoor, who passed away on Tuesday. He was 58. The veteran actor suffered a massive heart attack and was taken to Inlet's General Hospital, where he breathed his last in the morning. He was not keeping very well and was not actively involved in Kapoor's get-togethers for a few months. He was missing from the Christmas and Raksha Bandhan lunches at Kapoor get-togethers. Rajiv Kapoor, as you will remember, starred in popular films like Ram Tera Ganga Maili, Mera Sathi, and Hum To Chale Pardes, and many others. He had also directed Prem Gant and Ab Lao Chale, starring Rishi Kapoor. As a producer, Rajiv Kapoor later rolled in 1991 film called Henna. He was the actor who looked very similar to Shami Kapoor in his younger days. In his memoir, Rishi Kapoor revealed that he was closer to Ranbir Kapoor, who was 5 years older to him than Rajiv Kapoor, the youngest of the five siblings. Rishi Kapoor and Rajiv Kapoor share an uneasy relationship that they weren't able to bridge even over time, he says. I worry a lot about Chimpu, that is Rajiv's nickname, and feel sad that he has never been able to realize his true potential. He is the most talented of us and has an uncanny ear for music. He plays the piano superbly without ever learning it, Rishi had said in the book. A lesser known priest from the famous film family, he then made a switch to production and direction. In 1996, Rajiv Kapoor made his feature directorial debut with Prem Granth, starring Rishi Kapoor and Madhuri Dixit. He also produced Rishi Kapoor's directorial debut, the 1999 romance drama Ab Lao Chale. He was divorced from his wife, Aarti Sabarwal, after 2 years of marriage. While on the Kapoor family, Rishi Kapoor, who passed away from cancer, has written some very interesting facts in his memoir, Kullam Kulla. We pick out 11 of the interesting points which might be of interest to you as well, knowing that Rishi Kapoor was rather outspoken. On his father, Raj Kapoor's extramarital affairs, Rishi Kapoor honestly admits that Raj Kapoor was involved with other women even while he was married to Krishna Raj Kapoor. Talking about Raj Kapoor's affairs, Rishi shares, I was very young when my father had an affair with Nargis ji, and so I was not affected by it. I don't remember feeling anything was amiss at home either. But I do remember moving into the Natraj Hotel on Marine Drive with my mum during the time Papa was involved with Vajayanti Mala. My mother had decided to put her foot down this time. From the hotel, we shifted for 2 months into an apartment in Chitrakoot. My father had bought the apartment for mum and us. He did all he could to woo her back, but my mother wouldn't give in until he had ended this chapter of his life. On being madly in love, but not with Neetu, Rishi writes in his memoir that his first steady and serious girlfriend was a Parsi girl called Yasmin Mehta, whom he dated much before Bobby was out. By the time Bobby was released in 1973, Stardust, which was the most popular magazine of its time, published a story about a budding romance between Dimple and me. Dimple, who by this time was already married to Rajesh Khanna, was not greatly affected by it. But it did put an end to my relationship with Yasmin. I tried hard to get her back in my life, but she never agreed. Why Rajesh Khanna threw away Rishi's ring? Yasmin Mehta, Rishi Kapoor's first girlfriend, had presented me with a ring when we were dating, he says. A simple one with a peace sign on it. when we were filming Bobby. Dimple would pull it off and wear it on her finger. She ended up keeping it. When Rajesh Khanna proposed to her, he saw the ring and flung it into the sea near her house in Juhu. Inevitably, the headlines blazed: Rajesh Khanna throws Rishi Kapoor's ring into the sea. The truth is that I was never in love with Dimple, or even infatuated with her, says Rishi Kapoor. Then Rishi Kapoor had a bone to pick with Amitabh Bachchan. In his memoir, he says that during his era, roles were specifically written for Amitabh Bachchan, and that he was credited for the success of all his films, despite the fact that the secondary characters were also superb actors in their own rights. Putting across his point, Rishi writes, to go back to Amitabh, I must confess, here is still a lingering issue I have with him. A big advantage of working in an all star movie in those days was that everybody wanted to make action films, which automatically meant that the star who would carry off action with the most flair would get the meatiest part. That's how, with the exception of Kabhi Kabhi, which was a romantic film, none of the multi stars I had featured in had an author backed role for me. And it wasn't just me. Shashi Kapoor, Shatrughan Sinha, Dharmendra, Vinod Khanna faced it too. He further added that although we may have seen smaller stars, we were not lesser actors. But this is something that Amitabh had never ever admitted to in an interview or a book. He has never given due credit to the actors who have worked with him. The fifth point is when he wore women's pants. In the 80s and 90s, the stars worked upon their character on their own, be it deciding the costume, the makeup, or figuring out an iconic dance step. During one such shoot, Rishi confesses that he once ended up wearing women's trousers for the shoot. Today, I admit that my second film, Zehreela Insan, was a mistake. After the bubbly Bobby, I should have stuck to something similar and not gone for a film so drastically different. The one enduring memory of the Zehreela Insan shoot was the black trouser I had brought from Beirut. I was in the habit of shopping for my costumes, and this tight fitting beauty with flares caught my fancy. It was only later when I wore it in the song, Oh Hansini, that the dress man pointed out that its zip was to the side and not in the front. I'd made a fashion boo boo, picking up a lady's trouser, he writes. In another point, he writes on depression. In depression, he blamed Neetu for his failures. Every actor has to go through his share of ups and downs in his career. So did Rishi. In his memoir, the veteran actor says that with his first film, Bobby being a super hit, his expectations from the other films were quite high, but they all bombed at the box office. By this time, he was married to Neetu. Not only had he begun suffering from depression for his failures, but ended up blaming Neetu for them, thus straining their relationship. Neetu was pregnant with Ridhima and had to endure my breakdown. In that fragile condition, I finally came through it with the help of supportive colleagues, family, and friends. But I can only imagine how agonizing the experience must have been for her. Rishi almost refused the movie because Neetu's role was more prominent in a film. While Rishi Kapoor's film Kabhi Kabhi was a hit, the veteran actor says that he had almost rejected the film as his wife Neetu had a more prominent role in the movie. I mentioned earlier that I was reluctant to do Kabhi Kabhi in the beginning because I had been warned against working with Amitabh Bachchan. The second reason was that I felt Neetu had a more prominent role than I did. That's why I said to Yash Chopra, if you want me to do the film, give me Neetu's role. Yashji was confused, Rishi shares, but he later agreed to work in the film only after his uncle Shashi Kapoor intervened. Rishi personally never liked his songs. Rishi is known not only for his acting but for his numerous hit songs. But the actor who had given us memorable songs like Khulam Khulla, Pyar Karenge, Dafli Wala, and others confessed that he never liked his songs. I must admit that I was often hopelessly wrong in my initial reactions to some of these chartbusters. I remember Boni Kapoor coming to meet me, brimming with excitement with a recording of Om Shanti Om in Karz. I gave Boni an earful saying that what a lousy number it was and wondering how Kant Pyarlal could come up with such a number for me. Then there was a time when Neetu felt threatened by Dimple Kapadia. When Rishi and Dimple debuted in Bobby, there were rumors of the two dating. But Dimple soon got married to actor Rajesh Khanna. 10 years later, Dimple made a comeback in Sagar, along with Rishi, which made his wife Neetu quite insecure in their marriage. Talking about this, Rishi wrote, "Many years into our marriage, Neetu confided in me that the only time she had felt threatened was when I worked with Dimple in Sagar. But she needn't have worried. Dimple was a friend, even if she had been a little bit more than during the Bobby time. 10 years had gone by. She was coming out of a marriage with two children of her own, and I was well settled with two kids. On being a male chauvinist. Citing Neetu's early retirement from films right after her marriage to Rishi, the actor says that probably it was also done to boost his male ego as he was a chauvinist during that time. Admitting it, he writes, "It was as if I had said often, her decision to wind up her career after marriage. I can say with a clear conscience that I did not force it upon her. We did agree before we got married that once we had children, one of us would be the earning partner and the other would be the nurturing parent. But to be honest, I didn't try to convince her to keep working either. There was a chauvinist in me that didn't want his wife to go out to work. I wanted Neetu to finish all her commitments before we got married. All I can say in my defense is that my views have changed since then." And the last point is the most important. Rishi admits to buying a film award. Now, we aren't surprised here. Talking about the Cold War between Amitabh Bachchan and during the filming of the movie Kabhi Kabhi, Rishi says that maybe it was because he had won an award which Amitabh wanted. Elaborating it, Rishi writes, "I think that Amitabh was sulking because I'd won the Best Actor award for Bobby. I'm sure he felt the award was rightfully his for Zanjeer, which released the same year. I'm ashamed to say it, but I actually bought that award. I was so naive. There was this PRO, Taraknath Gandhi, who said to me, 'Sir, 30,000 दे दो, तो आपको मैं award दिला दूंगा.' I'm not that manipulative sort, but I admit that I gave him the money without thinking." In the farmers' agitation case, an important point to be noted was that Deep Sidhu, an accused in the 26th January violence arrest, was arrested by Delhi police. So that's one good news because now all the truth will become tumbling out. Who are the people working? Who are the people who were working with him, and how this agitation was, conceived. Meanwhile, YouTube has removed two Punjabi songs about farmers' protest from their website. Supporters of the movement are calling this an attempt to kill songs of resistance. Song on the farmers' protest, which gave a prominent punchline to the movement, "All farming decisions will be taken only by farmers," is one of the songs that were taken down. The other one is "We Will Break You" by Himmat Sandhu. The 4-minute song personifies Delhi as a power center and describes its tussle with the farmers. It says, "The farmers will trouble you together, Delhi. You won't gain anything from this. You only will lose. All farming decisions will be taken by farmers." The song further invokes Sikh gurus who have showered their blessings on the youth of Punjab to take up this fight with those seated on Delhi's high seats. The song also calls for taking up the movement against Delhi with Josh, as well as Hosh, which is enthusiasm and discretion and sense. I think this is this very good decision by the central government and YouTube. With regards to the TRP case, Partho Dasgupta's bail plea in TRP case has been adjourned to February 15th. Bombay High Court has adjourned the hearing of ex-BARC CEO Partho Dasgupta's bail plea in the TRP case to February 15th, according to media. Dasgupta's lawyers would first seek to withdraw his petition submitted to the Supreme Court. His counsel, Shardul Singh, said that the petition was filed only on health grounds and not on merit. Special Public Prosecutor Shishir Hire informed Justice P.D. Nayak that despite Dasgupta's side informing about withdrawing the petition on February 2, it was pending. Reports say that Hire accused Dasgupta of forum shopping, a charge that was denied by the former BARC CEO's counsel. As per the SC order, the hearing in Dasgupta's petition was through video conferencing and that his lawyers had sought a 2-week adjournment to file an application for amendment. The court informed that the matter was listed after Dasgupta's counsel made a telephonic request. His lawyers informed that there was a mistake as the advocate on record in the SC was instructed to withdraw it. The second para of the SC order records that a call was made to take up the matter that would have been for withdrawal, informed the council. Singh informed that the plea was filed. Dasgupta was in the hospital while in custody last month on urgent health grounds. But the Sessions Court rejected his plea and now he's seeking bail on both health and merit of the case. Meanwhile, there seems to be a mass exodus to coup viewers from Twitter, including top ministers of the Indian government. Who is behind the coup app? The Indian alternative to Twitter. You would realize that we also have another app called Tutor, and many of us have moved to both Tutor and Coup. So, who is behind the Coup app? How did Coup rise to prominence? Which prominent accounts are there on Coup app? What is the significance of top political personalities joining Coup app? At a time when the center is having a problem with microblogging site Twitter over blocking of certain accounts, several ministers and departments of the union government have started flocking onto Coup app, a homemade version of the social networking platform. Now, who is behind the Coup app? The microblogging site was co-founded by entrepreneurs Aprameya Radhakrishnan and Mayank Vidwadka. Radhakrishnan had founded online cab booking service Taxi for Sure, which was subsequently sold to Ola Cabs. Prior to Coup, its parent company, Bombinat Technologies Private Limited, launched and is operating the Indian version of Quora called Vocal. According to data source from Crunchbase, the company raised Series A funding in 2018 from a clutch of investors, including Bloom Ventures, Kalari Capital, and Axel Partners India. In the latest round of funding announced earlier this month, former Infosys CFO TV Mohandas Pai's 314 Capital also joined the list of those investing in Bombinate Technologies. Thank you, friends. That's all for today. See you in another session tomorrow. Good night.